everyone. Welcome inside the State Champs Network studios. You probably recognize this set behind me. This is the kind of first of its kind, our State Champs post-year preps podcast. We've got a trophy here, so we're kind of handing out our postseason awards. We're calling this the Preppies, or whatever you want to call it. It's something with the Champies, something along those lines. My name is Lauren Plant. As you can see, there is another gentleman on your screen, and his name is Tom Markowski. He is coming to us from the Great North. The Onekama is what I'm told it is called. It is a small town somewhere near Lake Michigan, I understand.
Yes, it's in Manistee County, about 20 miles south of Frankfort, which a lot of people know where Frankfort's at.
Absolutely. So great thing about technology, and we're kind of testing this out as we do it too, since we have kind of a new system that we'll be getting going. And I want to tell you just right off the bat, we'll have a couple of football podcasts that we're going to be doing beginning this fall. We'll have a preview podcast we're calling right now the State Champs Football Forecast. And that will, of course, include Tom Markowski. We'll have Sean Belizean in on that. We'll have Scott Bernstein in on that. We'll have John Kidd in on that. It's going to be really great. We'll kind of preview what's going to be happening the weekend ahead. We'll tell you all the games that State Champs will be covering and featuring on the show. And then on Mondays, we will give you what we are now calling State Champs Extra Point. Extra Point, the TV show, is no longer in existence. State Champs is absorbing all that football coverage into our regular show on Sunday. So we'll still have State Champs Sundays at 9 a.m. And then, of course, we'll have the State Champs Extra Point podcast on Monday. So that's what's happening in the fall coming up. We're all very excited. So what we want to do now is just kind of wrap up and give out our awards. And we want to talk about the biggest surprises of the year. And since, we always like to go ladies first in this category, we will talk about the biggest girls team surprise of the year. Tom, who is that?
CHASSELL in girls basketball. Got to the state championship game in Class D. I think a lot of people felt that maybe Munising or perhaps Bark River Harris from the Upper Peninsula would get to that stage of the tournament. And when I look at CHASSELL, I think that was a remarkable run. Granted, they lost in the championship game to the team I predicted before the state tournament to win it, and that would be Adrian Lenawee Christian. But for CHASSELL to get to the championship game was amazing. I think you got to start with the regional against Munising, which was ranked number 3 at that time. They won by 8 points in that game, beat Bark River Harris in overtime in a regional final by 3. They beat Gaylord St. Mary in the quarterfinal, a top 10 team. They beat Waterford Our Lady of the Lakes in the semifinal, another top 10 team. I think
perennial champ.
They were an amazing run. And granted, they lost to Lenawee Christian, but what it came down to, I think sometimes you get tired legs, come from the UP, playing a hot team like Adrian Lenawee Christian was. Just a great run for CHASSELL. First time ever in the state championship game. Yeah,
no doubt about it. In fact, that girls basketball team did something that no other CHASSELL team had done in a long, long time. In fact, they had never been there as far as a girls program, but this was their first championship game appearance in either boys or girls since 1958. So it had been a long time since they had made a run that far. And granted, Lenawee Christian had a great season and won, fairly handily in that championship game. But again, winning its first ever regional title, that was a shock. In fact, they went 5-16, did CHASSELL in 2014, 2015, and then they upped their win total for this was their third successive season of having more wins than the one previously. So obviously a tremendous group of young ladies there that really had a phenomenal run. And it was a surprise. We did not expect to be saying CHASSELL in the girls Class D state finals.
No, I think, especially if you're living in Southeast Michigan, I thought I'm sure many thought for sure that Lakes would be the winner and get into the championship game against Lenawee Christian. But, I think, looking back at the season, I had a number of teams from the Upper Peninsula ranked in my top 10 throughout the season. Bark River Harris earlier in the season, they dropped out after a while. I think the strength in the UP in that Class D is very good.
Absolutely. Okay, so congratulations to CHASSELL. We will move on to our biggest boys surprise team of the year, and this one had to be pretty clear because we certainly didn't see it coming.
No, I didn't. In fact, Scott Bernstein and I were at the regular season matchup between Clarkston and West Bloomfield, and at that time, I thought Clarkston, they didn't look good. And in fact, at that time, I felt that they would be lucky to get into playoffs at 6-3. And I think what helped that team, they got blitzed that game. West Bloomfield really had their way, winning by about 3 touchdowns. I think
37-16.
Yeah, what helped Clarkston, I thought, was the regular season finale against Farmington Hills Harrison, which obviously got to the state championship game in their division. They were down in that game 12-0 at halftime. They came back and defeated Harrison 23-12. I think the momentum from what they did in that second half against Harrison helped propel them throughout the playoffs. And to beat West Bloomfield in the championship game, and let's call a spade, that was a snoozer. 3-2. Yeah. We were waiting for something to happen. And when they blew the final whistle, we were still waiting for something to happen. But congratulations. I think the bottom line here is the coaching that took place for Clarkston. Kurt Richardson and his staff getting his team prepared to play an explosive West Bloomfield team. Kudos to them. I think it obviously helped them having played West Bloomfield throughout, in the regular season. They knew of their mistakes and corrected them.
Yeah, they obviously did it with defense. That was their big thing. In fact, the Lakers' win over them earlier in the season was the only opponent to score more than 22 on them during the year. So Clarkston had been playing well. In fact, during the 4 playoff games, they only gave up a total of 36 points, did Clarkston. So they obviously, did what you have to do. Defense wins championships. It's no more true than what took place for the Wolves. Big wins, the beating Holland West Ottawa in the regional final.
That was the big one. That was the big one.
Certainly
Ottawa had lost one game during coming into that game. That was to Forest Hill Central, who had a great year themselves, and that was by 3 points early in the season. They went on to beat Rockford twice, Granville twice. That was a really good West Ottawa team.
Yeah, and we thought Davison was a pretty good team. They were ranked in the district final. They won 28-0 in that one.
It's funny. I think Clarkston had an easier time with the teams in their neighborhood than perhaps they did, maybe from somebody they don't know as well, like a West Ottawa.
Yeah, and then, of course, 27-7 over Detroit Catholic Central in the semifinal.
Yeah, who could see that coming too?
None of us. So obviously the biggest surprise team of the year we felt in boys sports. And again, this is always up for debate. And of course you can comment on who you think should be what. But this is just kind of what we're doing here. And it's not a perfect science, and it certainly isn't exact science on how we choose it. We just felt that this is some of the things that we saw and we noticed, and we said, yeah, this is who we felt should get this.
Well, if you took a poll of all the writers that cover high school football before the playoffs started, there's no way in heck that anybody would have picked Clarkston, not only to win it, they wouldn't have picked them to get to the championship game.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the way the championship game played out, it was just a myriad of confusion is what we've that was just the wildest thing I'd ever seen. So let's get to our teams of the year now. So we're going to go to our boys and our girls teams of the year. And obviously there are many that would qualify in this category. It's always something that if you're trying to nail down in all sports, all seasons, one boys team, one girls team of the year. Well, that's really hard to do. But we're going to do it. And we feel we'll start with the ladies and our girls team of the year. And boy, they had a dominating season, 27-1 this year. And that was in girls basketball, Saginaw Heritage in Class A.
They were one of the best teams I've seen in quite a while. I like the balance of that team. There was no superstar out there. I had a chance to see them play Detroit Country Day before the tournament started.
Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah, and they handled Country Day. Country Day was really never in that game, and we know what happened to Country Day in the tournament. They go on to win a state title. And you talk about their tournament run, Heritage. They beat Midland Dow in the district championship game. I believe it was by 12 points. And that was the closest game they had played in the tournament. And what I look for when you say, the best team in the girls sports, they were dominating. Nobody really touched Heritage the last half of the season. And that was true throughout the playoffs. East Lansing in the championship game, I thought, oh, what a matchup. This is going to be a heck of a – that was not a good game. Heritage just threw them off the court. So, Bonnie DeLong did a heck of a job in the years past. I've had Heritage ranked really high. They've kind of disappointed their fans and, played below maybe their level of what they thought they would play at. Not this year. They were truly champs.
Yeah, this was just their second appearance in the semifinals. 2015, they happened to get there, but they had lost in the first round last year. Credit to Vonnie DeLong, no doubt. 105-14 is her record at Saginaw Heritage, and that is nothing to sneeze at. That is impressive, and now they finally put it all together and had just an incredible run, dominating season. And you're right, they got contributions from so many different players. The only loss they had was to Detroit Edison, who was also one of the best teams of the year. And I would say maybe we went Class A because they had a tougher road to get to winning their final than, say, Detroit Edison. But some say it was the best girls basketball game in years when they played double overtime. It went, and Edison was able to outlast Heritage 57-55. But if you play 5 more minutes, it could have been exactly the opposite. Just a bunch of Division I recruits on the floor going at it.
Yeah, that might have been the best game of the year, regardless of class, regardless of the state tournament. Like you said, it was double overtime at Heritage, packed place. What an environment that was for both teams. And obviously, helped both of them in the tournament because they both won state title.
Yeah, absolutely. And great job on Saginaw Heritage. And we'll see. They have some youth on that team, so we'll see how they move forward into the next year. So, we get to our boys team of the year, and we are not in football or basketball in this one. We are going to give it to the Heartland boys hockey team, and it was a tremendous run, history-making, first ever state championship. They knocked on the door for many years, did Heartland, and winning a hockey state title is really one of the hardest things to do. Because not only are these teams in Division I, Division II play so many great teams, there's a lot of parity, and it's so physically demanding. It's like football in a way. It's so physically demanding. It's so hard to do. Every game is crazy in the tournament because it's one and done and you're out. And it's amazing. Go ahead.
Yeah, Heartland lost in the semifinals last year to Brother Rice, and I think you can point to that tournament run to helping the Eagles win their first state championship. Not only win their first state championship, it was the first championship game they played it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they had if you looked at kind of the AP rankings, we do our own rankings, but if you just kind of base off that, they had wins over 4 top-ranked teams in Division I in their tournament run. Their only in-state loss of the season was to Brother Rice. They hadn't given up a goal in the postseason going into the finals, and was able to get the win there. There was just so many things. Jake Benke was our high school hockey player of the year. He had 5 goals in the semifinals and the finals to lead them. They outscored their 6 playoff rivals by a combined 48-4 in the tournament. So they were on fire. Locked in.
In the regionals, it was 29-0. They really were dominating fashion. I think they really breezed by everybody until they got to Trenton in the championship game. And here's Trenton with all that hardware sitting in their trophy case, and that was
14.
One hockey game.
Or 13.
Yeah. To me, that showed how good they were. All right, you did all these other things, but now you're going to play Trenton in the championship game. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and here's the way we'll wrap it up. I saw this stat. Heartland never trailed during the state tournament. They led for 239 minutes, 41 seconds, and were only tied for a combined total of 14 minutes throughout the entire tournament. That is dominating.
That's remarkable.
It is remarkable. So, yeah, Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to Hartland. We got to see well, I always call him kind of like the athletic director. I don't think he is the athletic director, but the wrestling coach over there, and he is phenomenal. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now, but he always messages me all the time. But I'm Todd. Oh well, it is what it is. But again, they won their wrestling state championship this year too. So Todd Cheney, I get crazy.
Eventually would come to you.
Yeah, it would, and their softball team made it to the state finals.
So, finals, yeah, right, finals.
Yeah. So that was a great run.
Girls basketball, they got to the quarters.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of teams that we could, give credit to. And in fact, you kind of mentioned what we're doing right now. So at the end of the podcast, we're going to have our award for the overall program of the year. And again, lots of candidates could fit into this category. We've got one, and we like our choice, and that is coming up later. So we're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we are going to have our coach of the year join us via satellite, as we're doing here. And I will not reveal who that is, but you will know who he is right after this break.
I want a career in robotics and automation, so I chose Lawrence Tech for its first in Michigan robotics engineering program. LTU's brand new STEM complex has a robotics lab where we can design, build, and program robots in a creative atmosphere. And the best thing is, I haven't graduated yet, but I already have a job in my field. I know I made the right choice for my career. Lawrence Tech, possible is everything.
All right, welcome back to the State Champs postseason preppies, however you want to call it. This is where we kind of take a look at the entire year and kind of give our assessment on who we felt were some of the best teams, some of the best programs, biggest surprises of the year. We also have a segment that will be coming up next, which talks about kind of the biggest recruiting story of the year. But right now, what we want to do, as you can see, there are three of us now. And the gentleman in the Brady Bunch bottom box is Mr. Shane Fairfield, who we are honoring this year, as I have my award here for you, Coach. I'm handing it to you. The Coach of the Year for the fantastic season that your Big Reds had. And, it seems now like a lifetime ago since football season. But as you well, first off, congratulations. And as you kind of look back and see at that journey of what 2017 was for you, what do you think about?
That's all the lessons that we taught and we teach and we try to implement in our young men. It finally had some closure to it. Whereas you talk about never giving up, you talk about being resilient, you talk about, if it's worth having, it's worth having, working for, and it's not always going to be easy. So after those 4 losses in the state finals, I was kind of searching like, man, are my words ever going to mean anything? Right. So then to finally put it to rest and everybody say, yeah, look, Coach was right. All these lessons along the way, it wasn't given to us. We've had to earn it. We've had to face some adversity, and we stick to the grind. We stay true to ourselves in football and the people around us, and it can, you can be a champion. And it took a little longer than we wanted it to, but if that's what it takes to teach the lessons of life, then I'll do it again.
Yeah, a lot of things have to go right from the championship. What are some of the things that molded your team onto the journey to the Ford Field? What were the things that just, piece by piece throughout the season worked well for you?
Well, I think it was the motto, for one. I mean, everybody comes up with mottos, and you try to live by those throughout the year. And the one that we adopted right after the state finals in 2016, when we lost with 6 seconds left, was little things matter. And it wasn't one play. I know it came down to that last play where everybody said, they caught the Hail Mary pass in the end zone and all that kind of stuff. But throughout that game, there was a series of little things that happened. And we just adopted the fact that LTM, little things matter, in everyday life, from the way you do things at home, the way you do things in the classroom, the way you do things at practice, on the way to practice, on the way home from practice, matters. And the kids adopted that, and they I thought that was the biggest thing, was they started to pay attention to more of the finer details than just, let's go tackle. Well, let's figure out the best way to tackle and things like that. So I think that was the biggest thing, was their attention to detail. Seeing them correct themselves and self-correct themselves and self-coach themselves was a huge thing to I think finally get us over that top.
You know, high school sports teaches so many life lessons. And, you know, I know that's what you're doing, you know, as not just a coach, but, you know, you're teaching these kids how to handle adversity. And for those who are not aware, it really is a tragedy in the terms that to get to the state championships 4 times and lose 4 in a row is tough on anybody, especially when you're trying to get over the hump. 2012, 2013, both to Brother Rice, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Okay, and then 14 and 16 to St. Mary's.
Correct.
Okay, and so you guys were. I think, you know, again, you were saying all the right things. You had the mottos. You went in it was going to be your 8th season. You had been at Muskegon since 2010, going into last season. And boom, you guys go 9-0. You win a very, very competitive OK Black. You go 14-0 and you win the state championship. And again, we reward one football player as Mr. Football every year, and we felt hands down that this year was Ladarius Jefferson's big time.
Yeah, you know, that he was a great. He was there as a junior, and he willed himself and his team, you know, to definitely not feel the way he felt coming off that field in 16. And those were heck of games too. I mean, the only game that really I felt we didn't really have an opportunity at the end to, like, all right, we got beat, was the 13 team with Melzone and Perry and Lecanary and Retschke and those guys. Other than that, you know, we lose by 7 and 12, and then we lose by 7-0 in a heck of a battle with St. Mary's and 14, and then of course the 16 game was a battle. So, but that's what it should be about, you know, win or lose. I'm happy with the way the playoff system is, and no private, no public. And I don't know if that's part of the topic or not, but you want to be the best, play the best. You know, I mean, everybody always said, wow, if you didn't play, if they played their own Catholic League championship, you'd be a state champion. And then I would sit there and wonder if I was really the best team or not. You know, school's a choice. I think levels the playing field a little bit more than it did in the past, but. Yeah, Ladarius did a heck of a job. I think the whole senior class that came back, the guys that were on that field, CJ and Bo, who had to live with that for the whole year. Some of them put that catch between the two of them on their Facebook pages as their cover page, where the ball fell in between Bo and CJ, you know, and those two young men had to take more blame than they deserved and ridicule, but they did a heck of a job of refunneling that stuff into energy and positive energy and led their teams. And Bo broke our school record with 10 interceptions, and CJ, you know, had a heck of a career for us in the secondary and offensively. So they learned a lot from that, and I think it's going to help them then move forward in life and be better fathers and husbands and professional men in society for it.
You know, no town is football bigger than it is in Muskegon, in the state that I see. Shane, how has things changed for your program since winning the title? Or are things pretty much the status quo, and, you know, next year is another year, and then we get ready for another battle?
It's pretty much expectation. That's expected. You know, I think we're spoiled. You know, I think since 2012, after I took over in 10, late in 2010, February in 10, actually May, after everything was worked out. So, but from 12 to now, we've played 14, 14, 14, 12, 14, 14. So, I mean, you play as many games as you can, and people start to just realize that's the norm and the expectation. So, but it is a football factory. We like to hang our hat on that, just as well as Alabama and Clemson's and those school, Georgia's. You know, you want to put yourself in that position where those pressures are, and there's nobody going to put more pressure on yourself than you. I mean, if you're a CEO of a successful company, there's nobody putting more pressure on you than yourself and your staff and wanting to win and continue to be at the top. That's an adrenaline rush. You know, I don't drink or smoke, but that's my get high and my get drunk on the weekends is walking out of Hackley Stadium, coming down that tunnel, listening to the fans, our band playing our fight song, and the smell of the grass. Yes, grass. I said grass. Nobody plays on grass anymore. True story. We played DCC in 14, and they came over and they walked down the field and they go, grass. I didn't realize anybody even played on this anymore, you know. So I think it's an advantage at Hackley to stay on grass.
Absolutely. So as we hand out our postseason awards for the 2017-18 school year, Shane Fairfield is our Coach of the Year from Muskegon, his Big Reds. And I'll tell you one thing, Coach, you got to be super proud of, and correct me if I'm wrong, because there may have been more since I read this, but I believe that on signing day you had 9 guys who were going to be playing college football, and then you had one guy who was going to run track in Marvin Harwell. So 10 of your 17 seniors received scholarships. Am I right?
Yeah, 11 now with Davion McCall, I believe, is going to go play also as well. So, yeah, 11 total. I think we gave out $872,000 in scholarship money in those 11 guys. So our football program this past season handed out almost $1 million in scholarship money. So that's the biggest thing, is our kids getting opportunities to use football. And I think, you know, we always talk about using the game. Don't let the game use you. At the same time, we have to respect this game. This is a great game. This is a game that has put many successful people in positions they are because of the game and what it teaches you, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the commitment. So, yes, I'm very honored to have this award. I appreciate there's a lot of great, phenomenal coaches out there that I've learned from and I have grown from. Coach Port from, of course, St. Mary's, and Mac from DCC, and right on down the line that I've had the honor and the privilege to coach against and learn from. And so I accept this on behalf of all of my coaches and our school, our community. And I'm honored by you guys and what you've done for high school football and the shows and the exposure these young men are getting. And thank you for honoring Ladarius with that, Mr. Football, Hungry Howie's Mr. Football. So thanks again, guys. I'm very honored.
Congrats.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a show coming up in the middle of August that ranks the top 25 quarterbacks over the last 25 years. You might want to watch that show because I think one of the guys you've had recently is going to be making an appearance. So
I'll do that.
We'll say, yeah. So anyway, Coach, I know you're at Ferris State and about to get to a football camp, and which happens to be another Muskegon connection. The fact that Tony Anise was a former Big Red head man.
Yes.
So keep it a Big Red out there. Enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad we got this to work out, and we'll talk to you right around the corner. Football season's coming up.
Thank you, guys, very much. Appreciate it. Tom?
Yep, De La Salle on the 25th.
What's that?
What, De La Salle on August 25th, right?
24th.
24th.
August 24th. So, yeah, we played De La Salle the 24th at Hackley Stadium.
Heck of That's a big game.
Yeah, defending state champs versus defending state champs. And the AD now at De La Salle was our AD when we won the state title in 2008. So a little connection there as well.
Wow. All right. We're all over that. No doubt about it. So, all right. We'll stick around. The podcast will be right back.
I want to blend my business education and athletic skills and open my own fitness center. At Lawrence Tech, I'm learning how to research, present, and to really think like an entrepreneur. And I love the small college feel here, where there's always something to do. We have men's and women's intercollegiate sports and dozens of student organizations. I can't wait to apply what I'm learning here in the real world. Lawrence Tech, possible is everything.
All right, welcome back to the State Champs Preppies, we're calling it. It could be whatever you'd like. It's the postseason awards. We're kind of recognizing kind of the best of what's happened over the course of the 2017-2018 school year now that it is in the rearview mirror. I am Lauren Plant, joined by Tom Markowski, and Alan True is joining us now. And Alan, just kind of give those who maybe are new to State Champs a quick perspective on what you do for a living.
Yeah, so I cover recruiting in the Midwest for 247sports.com. So we track all the recruits, write about where they're going to go. We scout them in the field, see, and then rank them. You know, the star system is often debated upon. I'm one of the guys that hands those out.
Absolutely. That is definitely something that is debated a lot. And what Alan also does with State Champs is we have something we call the Recruit Report. So for the last several years, Alan would come on our football show that was Extra Point, which is now kind of morphing back into just one State Champs show. And we also had a radio show, and he'd come in and kind of talk about the stuff that's happening, which a lot of people are really always into in the big recruits. So what we wanted to do today is talk about what we felt was maybe the biggest recruiting story of the year. And so there's a lot of things you could talk about. You could go individuals, and we kind of debated about a couple things like maybe Ladarius Jefferson, our Mr. Football, flipping to Michigan State. But we wanted to go with one that I thought was really cool because you don't see it happen every year. And that's the fact that Wisconsin really made a big push to come into Michigan and really grabbed a number of top recruits this year. I mean, they basically raided the pantry, Alan.
They did. And like you said, this year we didn't have a Malik McDowell type situation or Mike Weber or one of those guys at the top of the state. The guys at the top of the state last year, by and large, pretty quiet, we're going to commit, we're going to stick to it. And so I thought Wisconsin was the biggest story. I mean, they came in the year before, they got Scotty Nelson. And I think that sort of started the snowball because you didn't see a lot of Wisconsin in Michigan a ton previously. They get Scotty committed, and I think that started things off for them. They come in, they get 5 guys, and these were guys that were wanted by other schools. It's not like Wisconsin came in and just took low-hanging fruit. They got Michael Furtney, who had 25-plus offers. You had A.J. Abbott and Taj Mustafa, who both had a bunch of Big Ten offers. Jalen Franklin had a bunch of schools after him. Reggie Pearson was a guy who committed. He was the first one to commit in that class. Had he waited things out, he might have gotten more offers as he went along. But a great player, obviously played in state title games and such. So Wisconsin did a great job. They got those guys on campus. Madison's a great place to see a game. It was just a matter of getting kids from Michigan to take the shot to come up there and visit them. And then, that success that they've had is carried over into the next class. They have Logan Brown, who some people think is the #1 recruit in the state in 2019, committed. So certainly it seems like Wisconsin's got some momentum here, and they're going to be a little bit of a thorn in the sides of Mark D'Antonio and Jim Harbaugh moving forward.
Some great athletes. I look at those names, Alan, and I look at, receivers, Franklin was a quarterback. We don't see him to being a quarterback at the next level. Is that what they were looking for coming into Michigan? Maybe we can get some athletes we normally don't get.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Wisconsin doesn't have to go very far outside of their scope to get linemen. Obviously, they got Furtney, but they usually can take care of the big boys within their home state or close to it. So they didn't have to come in and pick up some of those big guys. They did target some of those skill guys. A lot of those kids camped. I believe Abbott had to go up there and camp to earn the offer. But they did a good job evaluating and recruiting those guys. In a lot of those situations, Wisconsin was among the first schools, or at least among the first Power 5 schools to offer those kids. And I think ultimately that's what helped them land some of those guys. It was certainly the case with Pearson, who, like I said, had committed. I think it was even before his junior season started that he was committed to Wisconsin.
So Michael Furtney was out of Milan, Reggie Pearson out of River Rouge, Jalen Franklin out of Gibraltar Carlson. He was a Mr. Football candidate most of the year. A.J. Abbott, Taj Mustafa, both out of West Bloomfield, both fine receivers in their own right, although we didn't see it in the state championship game, but that's a whole different ball of wax. What I do want to ask is usually there's a connection somehow to a former coach, maybe from Michigan, somebody who's got Michigan roots, somebody who can go into those living rooms and really convince them on how Wisconsin is a good idea as opposed to maybe staying in state. Do they have somebody like that recruiting that maybe has ties to here?
I don't believe so. I think it was mostly a case of the year before, Jim Leonard, who was their defensive coordinator and a former All-American defensive back. He came in and really recruited Scotty Nelson hard. And that was where the relationship started. They were already in the area. They'd go to other schools. They almost got Scotty's teammate, Elijah Collins, who ended up going to Michigan State. They almost got Elijah. And I think just recruiting those couple of guys helped them get over there. And then once the ball really started moving, getting Reggie Pearson committed early, that was huge because he helped get some of those other guys there for camp and visits and things like that. So no real true Michigan connection on their staff, I don't believe.
Do you think they just got outworked, like Michigan and Michigan State by the staff at Wisconsin?
Well, and I don't think, I'm trying to think now, I don't know that Michigan offered a single one of those guys that ended up committing to them. And Michigan State had offered a handful of those guys, but like I said, Wisconsin was in on some of those guys by the time Michigan State offered. So it was just a case of having already gotten some of them on campus, having already built the relationship, and then by the time these other schools came in and offered, Wisconsin was already in a good spot. Now, Michigan State moving forward, I think you look at this year's class, Michigan State has been able to fight off Wisconsin for a lot of these guys. So it's going to be, we'll see if it's a one-year anomaly for the Badgers or if they're going to be able to consistently land 4 or 5 guys. I think they've shown they can definitely come in and get one, like Logan Brown. But we'll have to see if it's going to be a yearly thing where they come in and can get multiple guys from the state of Michigan, because I think Michigan and Michigan State are definitely starting to lock down the borders a little bit more after that happened.
All right, he's Alan True, joined by Tom Markowski. I'm Lauren Plant. This is kind of our postseason wrap-up, kind of our awards, and we wanted to kind of deviate a little bit from the awards to have kind of what was the biggest recruiting story of the year. We felt that Wisconsin raiding the state of Michigan cabinet was a big one, considering how many players are going to be Badgers next year. So they've kind of set a precedent now. As you look forward now to the next crop of recruit, the next couple of classes, is it still Wisconsin that's coming in, or are we seeing maybe another school that is picking up the pieces here and kind of claiming some of our guys?
I think all of the, or at least not all of them, but several Big Ten schools have realized that there's good talent in Michigan, and that's not talent that's all the way at the top either. Like I said, you don't have to go after the first best 2 or 3 guys. There's talent to be had deep into the state. So I think you're seeing Purdue in more. Iowa always comes in and does a good job. They had Desmond King and some other guys, and that's helped them establish. Those schools are in there. Like I said, Wisconsin, they got Logan Brown. They're at least a player for Lance Dixon. They are in it for several of these guys. But Michigan State, but the other thing we didn't mention, Michigan State was coming off of a 3-win season, and when a lot of these guys were getting offered and were making their decisions. Now they've had a better season. They've gotten things turned around, moving back into the right where Michigan State was headed. And so you see them, you see Wisconsin and some of these other schools having a harder time beating out Michigan and Michigan State this year. And I think that's part of it too. But there's always going to be a handful of those schools. But as far as Michigan, I don't know who to watch out for. I would say Wisconsin, Iowa, and Purdue in the Big Ten are the schools that are most emphasizing the state of Michigan.
So we're able to stave off maybe the Penn States of the world right now, and Ohio State's not making a push here?
Ohio State and Penn State are always going to swing in and recruit a couple of kids. I just don't think they're going to recruit the number of kids. Wisconsin, some of these schools. Maybe we'll see Penn State come in and take 5 kids from the state of Michigan. They'll get a KJ Hamler. They'll get Rob Bolden. They'll get guys like that. The same with Ohio State and a guy like Mike Weber or Josh Albee. They'll get 1 or 2 guys out of the state, and that's what they'll target and go after. But I don't necessarily see those.
All right. I think we're having a little audio trouble with Tom. Do you hear that, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay.
There must be something in the Grand Rapids air.
Yeah, exactly. So we're kind of testing out, Al, this new system of bringing everybody in remotely, Brady Bunch style, for our podcast. But we do appreciate your time today, and I know that you plan on participating. We have a couple of podcasts that we'll be doing for football season coming up. State Champs Nation. We'll have our State Champs football forecast, which is going to preview the weekend ahead, and then we're going to have State Champs Extra Point, which will happen on Monday, which is kind of talking about some of the stuff that took place over the weekend. So we're really excited about 2 podcasts we have with football, and it'll be 2 more times you get a chance to hang out with Alan True as he gets to be here. And of course, Alan will take part in not just our State Champs Michigan recruit report, but he's going to be taking part in our State Champs Indiana recruit report. So we're really excited about that. And hey, man, we'll be getting after it here in about a month or so. So we'll be talking to you soon.
Very excited. I'll give AT&T a call and get my Wi-Fi sorted out before that.
Sounds good. He is Alan True of 24/7 Sports. He's a good follow on Twitter. Quickly, Alan, give him your Twitter handle.
Just my name, at Alan True, ALLENTRIEU.
There it is. All right. He is Alan True. We'll see him in about 6 weeks' time as we get set for the fall sports season. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the program of the year, and that's going to wrap up this year's State Champs Preppies. We'll talk to you soon.
My passion is architecture. I don't want to sit around passively studying. I need to create. In our architecture studios at Lawrence Tech, we collaborate with students, faculty, and professionals from around the world. And from day one, we design using the same industry standard software that architecture firms use. I really feel like I'm designing my own future here. Lawrence Tech, Possible is everything.
All right, welcome back to the State Champs Postseason Preppies podcast. These are the Preppies. We're handing out our awards for what we feel are teams of the year, coach of the year, who you met earlier, Shane Fairfield from Muskegon football, well-deserved. We had Alan True, who talked about kind of our biggest recruiting story of the year, which we felt was Wisconsin raiding the state of Michigan and taking a lot of our top recruits to go play for the Badgers in the Big Ten. And now we are going to wrap up the podcast. Tom Markowski here, and we are going to talk about our overall program of the year. So this is maybe the school that has had maybe the most success as a program in a variety of sports. And Tom, the drum roll is here. Who is it?
Novi. Novi winning girls volleyball, girls soccer, which was a surprise to many, beating Grand Blanc. The boys basketball team reaching the state semifinals. The boys tennis team getting 7th place. The girls tennis team getting 6th place. It was a tough call here. We mentioned Heartland. We also thought about Clarkston because of the great year that school has had. Yep. But congratulations to the Wildcats on just a great season. I think what put them over the top was that upset in the girls' soccer final.
Yeah, that was huge. Again, a team who's usually used to being there. This wasn't a team they were expecting to be there. So that was phenomenal. And, you know, when I think about maybe the greatest storyline of this past year, at least the most fun to follow, was what the Novi boys basketball team was able to do in that run into the semifinals. I mean, you talk about last second heroics and just incredible plays and just some really great games. That one against Skyline, which I believe was the regional. I don't know if it was quarterfinal. Maybe it was a quarterfinal. I don't even remember. It was phenomenal.
Well, that shot in the Callahan Hall in the quarters that got him into the semis. And I didn't catch that game, but I did watch them in the semifinals, and I couldn't but help but, you know, see really some really fine basketball being played at a school you don't associate it normally. Novi, if they win a district, it's like, wow, they open some eyes. But they were really, really good. They're a real talented team, well-balanced team. I was impressed. You know, they were a team that, you know, sometimes you might see a team that gets to the semis and you say, well, how did they get there? Was that a fluke? I don't think it was any fluke. This team was legit.
No doubt. And I know they beat Canton in the districts to win the district title at the end. We had Canton highly ranked. And it was Nova. It was against Skyline. We had Skyline #1 all season long. They beat them in the regional in exciting fashion, same player. And then they do it again at Callahan in the quarters to beat Jesuit and to get to the semifinals. And again, it was a crazy run. And Novi High School, you are our program of the year. Congratulations. And that is going to wrap up our State Champs postseason Preppies podcast, lots of P's, as we kind of get off to summer here. And again, we'll be back with a lot of football talk, a lot of great stuff that's going to be happening this fall. State Champs is opening up in Indiana. So that is exciting for us and a new challenge. And, you know, that will be something that you can follow if you are just a high school sports fan. So we'll now be in Michigan, and we'll be taking over the Indianapolis area for the next school year. After that, who knows? We'll be growing even more. So, again, Tom, thank you.
Yep. Pleasure to be here.
All right. Appreciate it. Enjoy the
beautiful northern Michigan, where the weather is finally hit us well. It's beautiful up here.
So there's his commercial to have you take your family up north, enjoy some time, spend some money up there, support the communities. They'd appreciate it. So, all right. Well, yeah, exactly. So that's the podcast, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will be talking to you soon in August. Lots happening. And again, on the TV side, I do want to mention quickly before we go, we've got the State Champs yearbooks. Those are 1 year in State Champs history starting up on July 5th. We'll have 4 of those shows. And then on August 5th, we'll have our Legend Show with Frank Orlando. We're working on that right now as we speak. And then the big one is going to be the week after that, our top 25 quarterbacks over the the past 25 years. We did the running backs a year ago. We've got the quarterbacks. In fact, we got a fan vote right now at statechampsnetwork.com for you to choose number 25. So go there, do that now. Stay with us, follow us on social media, and you will be kept in the loop. We'll have our high school football preview the week after the Top 25 show, and then it's State Champs for season number 19 beginning on August 26th, I believe it is. The Prep Kickoff Classic, of course, is where we will be that weekend, covering a lot of great games. So for Tom Markowski, for Alan True, for Shane Fairfield, who joined us, and all the State Champs team, we'll see you guys very soon. Thanks for watching.